Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day we explore how technology is transforming multiple industries, but also help brands and businesses prepare for this new connected world. Because although it can be tempting to revert back to the tried and trusted method that delivered success back in the analog world, the reality is the digital world is quite different and is going to require a new magic sauce to deliver future success. But before we begin, I want to give a big shout out to Rob Hollins. A little birdie told me he's a big fan of the show. He's an entrepreneurial leader focused on driving innovation, creativity and growth through technology and data. My kind of guy. So a big thank you for listening to the show, Rob. But today I want to explore the world of IoT, the Internet of Things. Yes, there are lots of gimmicks, but what I want to do is look beyond all that and together look at the real world examples of how some of the biggest brands in the world are already leveraging the Internet of Things and delivering real value as a result. So today's guest is Cameron Worth, and he's the CEO and founder of a company called SharpEnd, which is a London-based IoT agency that's working with huge brand owners, including Pernod Ricard, Mattel and PepsiCo, and so many more. And Cameron is also a pioneer in helping brands harness IoT and has worked in IoT and mobile technology roles at agencies, including Everything and Engine. But he's also a regular speaker and writer on how brands can leverage technology innovation to build their presence in this new connected world, and has even spoken at Cannes, the Festival of Marketing, Adweek Europe, New York DMA, the Connected Consumer Conference, Mobile World Congress, and the IoT World Forum. So I think it's safe to say he knows his stuff. So I invited him on the podcast today to share SharpEnd's mission to help brands get closer than ever to consumers by actually connecting packaging, retail and experiential activity. And their client list includes Unilever, Pernod Ricard, Nestlé, Pepsi. So I think it's fair to say that he understands this client landscape from the frontline perspective too. So I invite you to join me in London so we can speak with Cameron Worth from SharpEnd. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, my name is Cameron Worth. I am the founder and CEO sometimes of SharpEnd, which is an Internet of Things company based in London.
Excellent. And my understanding is that SharpEnd is this London-based IoT agency, but you also work with some of the world's biggest brands out there, including Mattel, PepsiCo, and so many more, which immediately set off my tech spidey senses. So can you set the scene now and tell me a little bit more about exactly what SharpEnd is and also how you're helping businesses solve problems with the Internet of Things?
I think SharpEnd is, I would kind of call it a response to a need for brands to make better use of their existing assets, such as their products, their packaging, their retail environments. I think we constantly look at how do you build brands in a connected world, and we sit somewhere between a creative partner and a technology provider. So we kind of are trying to establish what I think, if we get it right, is the future agency model of having a core technology product, and in our case it's a management platform for connected objects wrapped by a layer of services around it which enable us to be able to provide strategy, creative and content deliverables.
Now, I appreciate this is a big question, so don't fight it though. It's bigger than both of us. But in your opinion, How can brands leverage technology innovation to build their presence in that connected world that we're heading towards?
I think one of the punchy approaches that we take is to try and work with brands to understand that the brand who advertises less in the future will be the one who's most valuable. And when you unpick that, and you think about the idea of technology-enabled service and experience design rather than just kind of mass media communication, you start to see that there's a different role for brands to play, both within the kind of in-store environment and also looking at a new angle, which is how do you build brands post-purchase? And to put that into some sort of context without sounding too theoretical, if you're a brand like, or if you're a brand owner like Pernod Ricard, who makes 2 billion bottles every single year, and you say, we don't know anything about the person who buys the product, and we don't know what they do with the product, and we can't talk to them in a different way based on them buying our product before. If you start looking at connected bottles as a new gateway for direct to consumer engagement, then you start to see that there's this new opportunity to start increasing the loyalty of existing consumers. And then if you extend that into things like cosmetics, fashion, FMCG, pretty much any industry where people make and sell lots of stuff, you can start to see the size and shape of the opportunity, which is turning every physical product into a digital touch point.
I love that line you used there, that those that advertise the least in the future will be the most valuable. I think that's something that we'd all like to head towards. But I believe that SharpEnd's mission is to help brands get closer than ever to their consumers by connecting packaging, retail, and experiential activity. But can you share that mission and what excites you about it?
I guess, I'll sort of step up onto my pedestal for a second.
Yeah.
But the reason I started SharpEnd as the world's first Internet of Things agency was because if you look at the status quo, every single time there's a transformation or new platform, it's required specialist agency partners to be able to help brands exploit the opportunity. So if you look at digital, or if you look at social media, or if you look at mobile, they've always needed specialists to be able to navigate this new landscape. And if the Internet of Things is creating a new platform, which is the real world, then we wanted to be the first partner who could help brands to navigate that new landscape, that new territory, that new ecosystem. And I think that it deserves a different approach rather than just throwing out some cool ideas. It requires deep technology expertise around what does the spectrum of connectivity look like from a brand building perspective? And then how do you layer really nice ideas on top of that to motivate people to engage with these technologies? And then after that, how do you make sense of all this new connected data that you're collecting? And how do you reapply that into the business? So that's really the SharpEnd proposition. And it was started because there wasn't anyone who was really talking like that, I guess. You have people who can do big ideas. You have people that can talk until the cows come home about different types of technology. But there was this kind of middle layer missing, which was working on behalf of the brands and the marketers to really say, well, what do these mean to my ongoing efforts to build my brand in new and exciting ways?
And one of the things I've noticed at the Adobe Summit and lots of the tech conferences throughout the world is the phrase experiences are now more important than products or services. So I'm curious, are you finding out there with the people that you're talking to and those big brands that the role of brands is shifting from utility to entertainment now, and in that experience economy that we keep reading about?
I would actually counter, and I would say that the world is moving from engagement to utility. And I think brands who are much more useful are the ones who are more valued. And if I gave you an example, the role of the Alexa is not to deliver an immersive storytelling experience. It's to be able to get information from the brand as quickly as possible and get out of the consumer's way. So what we're kind of looking at is we're looking at all of these different fragmented technologies and NFC-enabled bottles or voice-enabled platforms and digital signage, and we're looking at what is the expectation from the consumer at that different point of the shopper journey, and then how does that technology play a role in delivering a solution to an identified pain point or a highlighted need. So that's really what we're trying to look at, which is not just, I guess, being interactive and being fun and being able to kind of tell the story of where your product came from, but also looking at what is it that the consumer needs and how do these new technologies play a role in delivering that information in a very succinct manner.
Because of that, I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball for a moment. We can't beat a bit of crystal ball gazing on this podcast. So what does the retail and packaging landscape of the future look like to you?
Packaging and retail landscape of the future, to me, it would look like every physical object having a digital representation that you can link to via your smartphone. And then from a retail perspective, I think the retail experience of the future is re-engineered around a mobile first set of behaviors with the human experience sort of built back into that, and looking at what is the heightened role of the human interface in store. I think one of the kind of conflicts that I have internally is that if you get these technologies right, you can kind of ride the wave of people-less checkouts and Amazon Goes, etc. But actually, I think that people are coming back into the real world expecting a better physical experience, and a better physical experience does include humans. I don't think that starting from how do we replace humans with technology is a good starting point. I think it's about how do you optimize the human experience with technology at the center. So that to me is what the retail landscape of the future looks like.
Absolutely. And I figure with 5G due to hit the landscape this year, are you expecting the world of Internet of Things to completely explode, or what are your feelings about what's actually coming over the next few months and the next few years?
If you'd have asked me about a year ago, I'd have probably been less optimistic. But what we've seen over the last 12 months, particularly with SharpEnd, is that brands are coming to us more than ever and saying, we want to know how the Internet of Things can be leveraged across our business and across our brands. What we were doing for kind of 2 years, or maybe even 2.5 when we started back in sort of 2015, was we had to really advocate for the Internet of Things, and we really had to try and move it past the gimmicky, faddy part of the industry, which still exists. However, what we were doing is we were saying to these global brand owners, look, this is a scalable operation. This is a scalable opportunity to transform the way that you build brands in a connected world. You know, Unilever has 1 billion people that buy and touch their products every single day. Pernod Ricard, like I said, is 2 billion. You know, we work with loads of leading fashion brands, lots of cosmetics brands within a certain portfolio. And ultimately, what we're seeing now is that we're having to do less of the cheerleading, because people are really starting to see that case studies are coming to market that are having meaningful results. We're understanding that people are more likely to give a brand their first party data with opt-in through a connected packaging experience. We're seeing 10 to 15% engagement rates on connected packaging projects. We're able to talk about some of the leading global brands that we've been working with deploying these technologies at scale. So we've been able to create quite a strong story that is now kind of starting to attract more brands onto it, because there's more of a normality to it rather than a novelty.
And I'm conscious you're based in the UK, and we have to have listeners in 165 countries. It could be listening anywhere in the world, shouting at their device, at last somebody gets it, that IoT is not about the gimmicky stuff. It's about delivering value and scaling as part of the business strategy. So for those people, what kind of markets are you serving at the moment? Am I right in saying that it is an international thing and for multiple industries? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling the effects of accelerated aging through air transport. So I'm spending a lot of time in the US, spending a lot of time in India. We've just lined up 2 projects to go live in Japan towards the end of the year. I guess from a business strategy perspective, we wanted to embed ourselves in the global functions of corporations. So we wanted to be able to set the strategy. We wanted to be able to deliver prototypes at a global level. And then we wanted to start working with the local markets to implement test and learn pilots. So what that means is it kind of means that the business guides us to their kind of centers of energy, as it were. So we're kind of equipped to support globally. And one of our approaches is actually just to put a team of people into clients' offices to actually get these projects done. So it's kind of really guided by the clients. To date, we have done projects in Europe. We've done projects in North America. We are due to launch a retail innovation project in the summer in Mumbai. So I think the Far East is the uncharted territory that we're hoping to deliver in towards the end of the year.
And it's looking towards the future. Is there anything else that you can share about the road ahead for SharpEnd? I understand you might be able to not share too much, but are there any teasers that you could leave us with today?
Yeah, I'm just going through my list of non-disclosures in my head to see what I can and can't say. I mean, from you can probably read between the lines, but SharpEnd is a 20-person business now currently, with representation in the US, with a small office in India. And if you looked at the business 2 months ago, we were 10 people. And if you look at the hiring plan, we're going to be 30 by the summer. So without kind of talking too much about the instruments behind that, we're on a big kind of mission to grow and scale in line with market expectations and the fact that clients are sort of bringing us with them. So from our perspective, I can talk very confidently about our growth plans and the fact that we're already implementing them. From an industry perspective, I mean, we're definitely on track to deliver the UK's largest ever loyalty program through connected packaging towards the end of Q3. We've got a huge announcement for April around a new way to approach the retail space using NFC technology. So what we've kind of set ourselves the target of this year is to deliver 4 best-in-class projects across our 4 key verticals, which is fashion, cosmetics, wines and spirits, and FMCG. And we've currently lined up 2 amazing projects across 2 of those verticals, and we're going to probably have more to share on the cosmetics piece in a couple of months as well.
Sounds to me like we need to get you back on the show in April. But before I do let you go, could I ask that you remind everyone listening where they can find you guys online, and also just reach out and contact your team if they are left with any other questions?
So I think we have a website called wearesharpend.com. We're on LinkedIn to a minimal degree. I'm on LinkedIn. Like I said, my name is Cameron Worth, and if you just search Cameron Worth SharpEnd, you'll find me, as long as you promise to like my posts. And I was just going to revisit your question before, actually, if you don't mind, about the kind of predictions for the industry.
Sure.
Point solutions are not going to cut it in the connected future. It's all going to be around integration, and it's all going to be around a new ecosystem of activation partners. So the industry players who have spent 5 years trying to go to market aggressively with a single solution or with an expansive story that doesn't really land in a kind of vertically integrated manner, I think they're really going to struggle over the next sort of year or two as brands become much more educated about what it is that they want from an Internet of Things supplier. And SharpEnd, if we deliver on our ambition for the year, is we're going to be the definitive activation partner for the Internet of Things. And we've got a series of key partnership announcements over the next 4 months, which will show you the kind of direction that we're going with industrial partners. So.
Well, one of the things I love about what you're doing here is it's not about gimmicks and adding to that big pile of tech that's just technology looking for a solution to something, looking for a problem. But what you're actually doing is helping brands leverage technology innovation to actually help them build their presence in a connected world and delivering real value and helping them scale with that too. So I wish you the best of luck for the rest of this year. We will get you back on a little later, but more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me on the show today, Cameron.
Thanks. No, I really appreciate your time, and let me know next time you need me on. Any questions, just get in touch.
One of my biggest gripes online is that online publications, when you're trying to find valuable insights, is in many occasions the whole content is pretty much covered up by pop-up ads that make it impossible to read anything. Yes, I'm talking about you, Forbes. So the line that Cameron shared there was those that advertise the least in the future will be the most valuable. Really resonated with me. So a huge thank you to Cameron for sharing his expert insights on the impact of innovation at scale and revealing some of those case studies of smart packaging and smart buying and the impact that it's having on huge brands such as Mattel, Pernod Ricard and PepsiCo. And also for giving us a little glimpse of the retail and packaging landscape of the future. But if there's anything else that you'd like to add to today's conversation that you feel we missed, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or check out my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. And if you're passionate about innovation, remember, check out my new book, Great TED Talks Innovation, which you can find both on my site and to pre-order at Amazon. But that's it for me, so I will join you here tomorrow, same time, same place. So come on in, the water is fine. But a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.